Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. And we're here today with special guest, Kent Nerburn, who's here to share with us his new book, Lone Dog Road. What if a broken sacred object set two young boys on a journey that would change not only their lives, but reveal the soul of a land and its people? Well, today's guest is here to share with us just that. Kent Nerburn is an award-winning author, sculptor, and educator known for his deep engagement with Native American issues. He directed an acclaimed oral history project on the Red Lake Ojibwe Reservation and has served in various educational and advisory roles, including with the Minnesota Humanities Commission and the American Indian Institute. He holds a PhD in theology and art. So welcome to the show, Kent Nerburn.
Happy to be here.
Well, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this novel. What inspired you to write this?
I had been working in Native communities, Native American communities for years. Ran an oral history project on actually a very large reservation in northern Minnesota, and I had come to really appreciate not just the values of Native people, as well as the fact that their stories had not been told. And in the course of doing the oral history project, where I took the students out to interview the tribal elders, I came across a photo. And this photo was of a young boy sitting in a rocking chair in one of the boarding schools. And if you don't know what the Indian boarding schools were like or about, you should find out about them. And hopefully you would find out about them through my books. But they were horrible places. But this photo of this boy it was haunting. And that was 1989 about 1989. And that photo never got out of my mind. So when the pandemic hit and I had free time to write, I said, I'm going to write a story that begins with this and carries through the story of this boy. So I made him an 11-year-old boy along with his 6-year-old brother who get involved in a journey after the boarding school agents had broken their great-grandfather's chanunpa, or sacred pipe, and they set off on a journey by themselves across the Dakotas to Pipestone, Minnesota, where the pipestone for the sacred pipes for all the people, all the Native people around America comes from. So that was really the origin of that photo was the origin of the story. And that boy just grew and became a friend of mine for the period of time that we did the book.
Well, what a phenomenal story. And you really share a lot that a lot of people don't know when you talk about just the boarding schools and how horrible they are. What can you share a little bit more about the story without giving away any spoilers?
Sure. The the Dakotas are a fascinating place. I fell in love with them. I'm not from the Dakotas. I actually am from Minnesota, and Minnesota is a very different place from the Dakotas. But in North and South Dakota, each have their own character. But there's a certain power and singularity about them. South Dakota is really native land, and North Dakota is you feel the big forces of the weather coming down from the Canadian prairies, and those things dominate. And I wanted to write a book that had those as characters, had the weather and the Dakotas as characters. So what I did is I set these boys on the journey across by themselves across the Dakotas, probably 700 miles to the Pipestone quarries. And the book is the people they meet along the way. And I really wanted to tell a story that was a redemptive story that all the people they meet are good people. They live in different worlds, they live in different ways, but they all have this sense of the power and mystery of the land and of the life itself. So there's one of my favorite characters is a black traveling troubadour or gospel singer. There's a man who was a white man who was hoping to be a priest and had worked in the boarding schools and ended up marrying an Indian woman. There's a Lakota woman who has was wounded and put in a wheelchair from the time she was young. And the center of the whole thing is not just the pipe, but the grandfather, the great grandfather for whom they're getting the pipe, who has distance and understanding, and the whole book becomes kind of a spiritual road mystery. Is he, in fact, aware of what's happening? There's some larger force that's guiding these boys and knitting these people together? And so it becomes a story of braided lives of people traveling, the travelers of the boys traveling, and the people that they meet. And it really is a story of individual people speaking from their own voices and from the heart as they encounter these boys and help these boys on their way.
I know you've done some great research in the past in the works that you've done. Did you do any research for this book?
Actually, this book was more a consolidation of the knowledge that I had by inventing by I took a big risk, a very big narrative risk. There is no narrator. There is only the voices of the individual people. Each of them speaks from chapter to chapter. And putting in the experience I have had with both the native people and with the study of religion and theology over the years. I actually was trained as a sculptor to do religious art and got my doctorate in religious art many, many years ago. So what I did is I put the knowledge that I already had about ways of belief, about the landscape, about the boarding schools, about Lakota, in this case, Lakota and Dakota Indian values. So all into the characters and into the book. So really, there wasn't much research. I've been working in Native America for 30 years and done books on the Nez Perce, done books on Lakota people, done work with the Ojibwe in northern Minnesota. So I had this foundation of knowledge. And by putting it all into a novel, I was able to bring it forth and let it flower and actually sort of percolate and grow. So I really didn't have to do any research for this book. I had it all. This was just a chance to a culmination of all the knowledge and thought that I had had and putting them into the characters and into the journey.
The sacred pipe is so central to the boys' mission. Can you share the symbolism and spiritual importance of it in the story?
The pipe is to the native people, it is the gathering place and the coalescence of spiritual power because the it's made from the earth, it's made from red earth, and then it has a wooden handle, and the ones that do have a handle, and the herbs that you put in it, the kinnikinick or conchasa, which whichever it's called by the various people, is like it comes from the earth. So you're taking a substance that comes from the earth, that is grown in the earth, you're putting it in the pipe, you are lighting it with fire, which is one of the major, you know, forces in our existence, and the smoke goes up to the heavens. When the pipe is lit, and traditionally it is not lit with a match, but lit with a coal or something that comes from the earth, and it's passed around, it's a bringing of everyone together in a circle. You could call it a sacramental act, but it is a bringing together of all the elements of earth and heaven, and it's a way of making a common prayer shared among everyone. And it's a very special experience when you're allowed to share the pipe. And I've been fortunate to be in many pipe circles with people, and I feel like I'm brought into a sacred space by when I'm near the pipe. And so this pipe that they were seeking to replace of their grandfathers was of their great grandfathers is really the sacred element at the heart of this. It's the unifying element in the story. And I hope that people will come to understand that this general sense of spiritual grounding and sacramentality in every aspect of Native life. And this pipe is really the essence of that.
What do you hope our readers and listeners take away from Lone Dog Road?
More than anything, we've descended into a difficult time of tribalism and othering people, and it's a necessary stage, I think, of evolution, cultural evolution, in that voices that haven't been heard are speaking and saying, you can't speak for us. We need to have our own voices. And absolutely that's true. But at some point, we have to look at the commonality of our human experience. And by creating all of these people who have trying to create them with as much reality and authenticity in their individual worlds, their individual ways of seeing the world, their individual backgrounds, native, non-native, white, black, and seeing that at heart there is a common humanity. That's really what I want to get across in the course of the book, that our uniqueness has to be celebrated, but our commonality has to be embraced.
And where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community and learn more about your other books?
Just my website, like everyone, I've got it out there, www.kentnerburn.com.
Well, Kent, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thanks for having me, and enjoy the sunshine.
Well, thank you, Kent. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new novel, Lone Dog Road. Make sure to visit Kent's website at kentnerburn.com to learn more about his other books and to be part of his community. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Mary Ann, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Mary Ann is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Mary Ann will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmaryann.com for more information.